What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, talking today about the state of PlayStation because there was a gigantic leak today that apparently Sony is secretly trying to cancel one of their most hyped games right now, which is Knights of the Old Republic. So let's talk about why this leak is so bizarre, because to me, on paper at least, it's a pretty big red flag. Let's discuss. Hi, hope you're having a great day. If you could like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. So, PlayStation has admitted that they're currently very profitable. In fact, their last quarter, they made more money than they ever have before, before even the massive sales of the PlayStation 2, the juggernaut sales of things like the Walkman. Currently, not just PlayStation, but across the board, Sony is killing it. And going into 2024, even their first couple months of the PlayStation 5 coming up here in the next calendar year is already pretty cooking. Stuff like Grand Blue Fantasy, Last of Us Remastered, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Silent Hill, Foam Stars, Rise of Ronin, which I'm very excited about. But there has been a project that people have been curious because we haven't heard much about it after the initial reveal. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic is a very classic game. It came out on the original Xbox. It was done by BioWare. It was an RPG that took place thousands of years before the birth of Luke Skywalker and Leia and all that freaking Darth Vader goodness. And it still managed to captivate us. It was a game that really managed to establish a totally separate chunk of Star Wars lore that unanimously gamers appreciated. So the remake obviously had a tremendous amount of pressure upon it. How do you remake arguably one of the best games of all time? And apparently Sony is trying to cancel it to the best of their ability. So according to Jeff Grubb, he did a new leak talking about it, and he said, Sony is wanting to be done with it. My stuff comes from PlayStation. It feels like it cannot happen without a partner like Sony. So currently as it exists, PlayStation is paying for the development, and right now they're trying to pull funding. So to me, it's definitely done and no reason for anyone to be working on it. Now, you may be asking, why is Embracer Group, the people that were currently working on this directly, why were they even needing outside funding? Embracer Group is literally technically they had like $1 trillion liquid at the start before all their acquisitions. Apparently, they're not doing so great financially, but we're going to look at that in just a second. The reality is maybe someone somewhere is imagining it could happen and someone could be working on it. I don't know that far. I don't know what's happening inside of Embracer. They would have to find someone to make it happen. I know Lucas is very horny, oh, good phrasing, to make it happen for years. So I think if Embracer can find someone, it can still happen. So a lot of people are taking this to mean that either A, it's completely scrapped, which is what this sounds like. Maybe option B, it's not going to be a PlayStation exclusive, but it still ends up existing somewhere. Or option C, which is that a completely different studio makes a completely different game that just happens to be called the Knights of the Old Republic Remake. People actually, in the replies to this, have been tagging stuff like Larian Studios, the people that made obviously, they did Baldur's Gate 3. So people are basically just saying, like, how another Sony L, horny. It's just bizarre that the game is already there on paper. The schematics, the script, the ideas, the concepts. Like, I know making it has got to be hard, but man, this game must be incredibly busted if Sony is pulling the plug. Let me get back to that in a sec, though. Here's part of why I think that it's probably getting some rocky hardships. Embracer Group has laid off 900 employees and shut down over 15 games with its restructuring and stabilizing of business. That means they've laid off a lot of people from a lot of their different studios, including a lot of their major IPs. It's just a bad circumstance all around. I do truly feel for all these developers, but on an artistic standpoint, it is weird that so many of these franchises that they just bought up, Embracer Group bought the Thief universe, they bought Tomb Raider, they bought Deus Ex. Those games, firing employees means these games are probably not coming back. We're getting that remastered trilogy of Tomb Raider games, and then after that, I guess maybe we're probably not going to see Lara Croft for a long time. But getting back to this, I wonder if it seems like Sony's biggest talent for the last console generation and this one, the PS4 and the PS5, in my opinion, they have been very good team builders and taste makers. They've been very good at finding a bunch of people that are focused, that are talented, that are good at hitting deadlines, putting them in a room together and saying, make a damn game. And that churn out has led to some very good award-winning experiences. I mean, it's undeniable that Sony has been cranking out some really good games, less so with the PS5 than with the PS4, where they were truly just going all cylinders. But this makes me think that Sony has somebody that went there, that looked at it, and it seemed unsalvageable. I mean, they revealed this now almost 2 years ago. They initially revealed this remake of KOTOR. The fact that it's not in some sort of playable state, the fact that we haven't seen any more trailers or reveals or even talks of a release date, I think it's a pretty safe bet that Sony, despite the fact that they make good mistakes, they screw stuff up, I think this is a correct decision from PlayStation. In this way, I'm sad that this game isn't coming out, probably, at least not this current version that's probably in dev somewhere, but I actually trust PlayStation to realize it's not worth the cash. Now, the one part of skepticism I have is that Sony has definitely been extra hesitant to spend cash. They definitely have been holding back the pocketbook, more afraid of experimenting, of creating new IPs, starting new franchises. Like, yes, they've done Horizon Zero Dawn, and yes, they've done Ghost of Tsushima and Returnal, but for the most part, they definitely have been more focused on sequels. How can we create a new remaster or some sort of established, marketable IP that already exists? In this case, I am kind of sad just because this would have been something that was kind of outside Sony's typical purview. Some sort of weird space epic with RPG mechanics. I mean, if nothing else, I just want this still to happen. I'm not really a big Star Wars fan. I've talked about this here and there in the past. I've seen all the movies. I've read a couple of the books. I've read a bunch of the comics and stuff like that. And for whatever reason, just in general, the Star Wars universe doesn't grab me. Something about the Force powers and the Sith and lightsaber battles. It just, for whatever reason, it bounces off my brain. It's kind of white noise. But the games have been a bright point. In fact, I've got a copy right here of a Jedi Survivor. I liked that. I like a lot of the classic games like Rogue Commando, Rogue Squadron, all that stuff. But Knights of the Old Republic was always the best of the best. It was always just a testament to how malleable the brand of Star Wars could be. And now I guess it's just dead. It doesn't have a prospective price tag big enough, so Sony is backing out, and Embracer apparently isn't going to foot the bill on their own. But what do you guys think about this? Is this cool to you, or does this not really matter? I guess with all these other games we have coming out, it's not like we're going to be sitting on our hands. We're definitely going to have stuff to play, but just hypothetically, I wish it did come out somehow. Guess we'll find out though. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, to subscribe if you haven't already, and be sure to keep dreaming. I don't know why I said it like that. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.